Hey everybody, so I decided to do something a little different for episode 5 of Creepypasta Storytime. So I was planning on doing this one for an episode, I just wasn't sure when, but I'm finally doing it, and it's based off of this fictional TV show called Cove, where it said that it could only be viewed by a certain amount of children, and then later on in their adulthood they have surprisingly good recollection of the show. But what's different about this episode is that it's not so much of a story, but it's more of like a story being told by separate people at once, but it's all going to be pieced together in one whole story. It's more or less like a conversation because they're basically recreating the whole more or less story on a web forum. People were just sharing their memories of the show. So don't be alarmed by the fact that it's not like a normal story. It's because it still is, but it's like being told by separate people on an internet forum. That's how the story goes. But I was not able to find it on any other site, so I actually had to go onto the website of the people who actually made the storyline in the first place. So let's just get right into it. So, does anyone remember this kid show? It was called Cove, and I must have been 6 or 7. I never found reference to it anywhere, so I think it was on a local station around 1971 or 1972. I lived in Ironton at the time. I don't remember which station, but I do remember it. It was on at a weird time, like 4 p.m. It seems really familiar to me. I grew up outside of Ashland, and I was 9 years old in 72. Cove. Was it about pirates? I remember a pirate marionette at the mouth of a cave talking to a little girl. Yes, okay, I'm not crazy. I remember Pirate Percy. I was always kind of scared of him. He looked like he was built from parts of other dolls. Real low budget. His head was on an old porcelain baby doll. Looked like an antique that didn't belong on the body. I don't remember what station this was. I don't think it was WTSF, though. Sorry to resurrect this old thread, but I know exactly what show you mean. I think Cove ran for only a couple months in 71, not 72. I was 12 and watched it a few times with my brother. It was channel 58, whatever station that was. My mom would let me switch it to it after the news. Let me see what I remember. It took place in Cove, and it was about a little girl who imagined herself to be friends with pirates. The pirate ship was called the Laughingstock, and Pirate Percy wasn't a very good pirate because he got scared too easily, and there was Kellyot music constantly playing. Don't remember the girl's name. Janice or Jade or something. I think it was Janice. Thank you, Jared. Memories flooded back when you mentioned the laughing stock in Channel 58. I remember the bow with the ship with the wooden smiling face with the lower jaw submerged. It looked like it was swallowing a sea, and they had that awful Ed Wynn voice and laugh. I especially remember how jarring it was when they switched from the wooden plastic model to the foam puppet version of the head that talked. I remember now too. Do you remember this part? You have to go inside? Ugh, Mike, I got a chill reading that. Yes, I remember. That's what the ship always told Percy when there was a spooky place he had to go in. Like a cave or a dark room where the treasure was, and the camera would push in on Laughingstock's face with each pause. You have to go inside. With his two eyes askew and the flopping foam jaw and the fishing line that opened and closed it. Ugh, it just looked so cheap and awful. You guys remember the villain? He had a face that was just a handlebar mustache above really tall, narrow teeth. I honestly thought the villain was Pirate Percy. I was about 5 when the show was on. Nightmare fuel. That wasn't the villain. The puppet with the mustache. That was the villain's sidekick. Horace Horrible. He had a monocle too, but it was on top of the mustache. I used to think that meant he only had one eye. But yeah, the villain was another marionette, the Skin Taker. I can't believe what they let us watch back then. Jesus Christ, the Skin Taker. What kind of kids show were we watching? I seriously could not look at the screen when the Skin Taker showed up. He just descended out of nowhere on his strings, just a dirty skeleton wearing that brown top hat and cape, and his glass eyes that were too big for his skull. Christ almighty. Wasn't his top hat and cloak all sewn up crazily? Was that supposed to be children's skin? Yeah, I think so. Remember, his mouth didn't open and close. His jaw just slid back and forth. I remember the little girl said, "Why does your mouth move like that?" And the skin taker didn't look at the girl, but the camera, and said, "To grind your skin." I'm so relieved that other people remember this terrible show. I used to have this awful memory, a bad dream I had where the opening jingle ended, the show faded in from black, and all the characters were there, but the camera was just cutting to each of their faces, and they were just screaming. And the puppets and marionettes were flailing spastically, and just all screaming, screaming. The girl was just moaning and crying like she had been through hours of this. I woke up many times from that nightmare. I used to wet the bed when I had it. I don't think that was a dream. I remember that. I remember that was an episode. No, 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 not possible. There was no plot or anything. I mean, literally, just standing in place, crying and screaming for the whole show. Maybe I'm manufacturing the memory because you said that, but I swear to God, I remember seeing what you described. They just screamed. Oh God, yes, the little girl, Janice. I remember seeing her shake and the skin taker screaming through his gnashing teeth. His jaw careening so wildly I thought it would come off its wire hinges. I turned it off and it was the last time I watched. I ran to tell my brother and we didn't have the courage to turn it back on. I visited my mom today at the nursing home. I asked her about when I was little in the early 70s, when I was 8 or 9, and if she remembered a kids show at Cove. She said she was surprised I could remember that, and I asked why, and she said, "Because I used to think it was so strange that you said, 'I'm going to go watch Cove now, Mom,' and then you would tune the TV to static and just watch dead air for 30 minutes. You had a big imagination with your little pirate show." See, now that's another thing I forgot to mention about this show. It turns out that only a certain amount of kids could watch it because it turns out that it would only affect certain kids' minds to where, so to only like the kids, they would think that they're watching a show. But to other people, such as adults, like mothers or fathers, they felt that they're not watching a show. Their kids are actually just watching straight static for 30 minutes, just like it said here. Okay, since that reading was like very short, since it was just like internet forums basically putting all their, it was more just thoughts. But so this will just be episode 5, but since this episode was so short, I'm going to do something special for you guys, and I'm going to actually shoot episode 6 right after this because it was so short, and usually these videos go for like 20 minutes or more because of how long the storyline is, but it wasn't that long this time, so just for you guys, you're going to get 2 episodes of Creepypasta story time today. So, I'm not going to like say the usual spiel that I do, so thank you guys for watching episode 5, and I will see you guys in episode 6.